attention energy reward. Bring it on the curate, acquire infantry, funky gets the attitude reward. Through the energy, come back to Johnny, won't let it get the body under control. Silence is an enemy, don't get your energy surrounding us, the demons of your soul. Do you know the enemy? Do you know your enemy? What kind of know the enemy? Do you know the enemy? Do you know your enemy? What kind of know the enemy? Insurgency will rise when the heart's been sacrificed. You'll be blinded by the lights in your eyes. Say! Violence is an energy. From here to eternity. Violence is an energy. Silence is the enemy. So get right on your shot. Do you know the enemy? Do you know your enemy? Well, God, I know the enemy, right? Do you know the enemy? Do you know your enemy? Well, God, I know the enemy, right? Do you know the enemy? Do you know your enemy? Well, God, I know the enemy, right? From the energy, love that's brutality, what better death than falling out of control? Silence is an enemy. What gets your urgency surrounding up the demons of your soul? Well, we welcome back Harmony and Chaos Season 4, the third episode of Season 4. We have episode 99 in our rear view mirror. And in this episode, it was all about the characters dealing with their past demons. Multiple characters dealt with their past demons in episode 99. Hence the title, The Demons of the Past. Infinite, we came to find out his backstory and how he came to meet Eggman and how he had to relive his demons, about how he basically led his squad to slaughter with his decision making. We also come to find out there's a new Hedgehog in town. Shadow sister that we never knew about. She's fictitious, by the way, but her name being Delia. Also, Fluttershy and Tails. Can their relationship Can they reunite? Can they reconcile? We have the answers here in the kingdom. And quite possibly the worst demon that Harmony and Chaos has ever seen is back. That's right, Chrysalis is back. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more in this episode, Labor Day episode of The Kingdom. I'm still in my quarters. I'm about to drop the drawbridge and let you guys start filing in. So with that being said, I'll see you guys down in the throne room momentarily.
Something more than me, someone to push me to victory. Let's see what we can do together, me and you. Don't be afraid to try. Kiss your fears goodbye. No looking back. You and I were long in time. Won't lead away. But into the sunset, such a different feeling. Both of us believing we can make it better. Together we can show what we can do. You and me singing up next to you. We're still through until the battle's won. No one's gonna get nothing to us. Into each other we put our trust. Standing united after the fight. All alone we will never be. The two of us are holding the key. We see today a world we couldn't see. Before I say goodbye to you, one more last fist bump. I know you have been afraid before.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another installment of The Kingdom. Let me get this camera fixed so I'm in frame here. There we go. Much better. Yeah, so I want to start off by saying happy Labor Day to everybody. I've got a cookout going on downstairs with the neighbors that I kind of want to get to. So we're not going to speed through it, but I do want to keep the live stream moving So, and I also wanted to get this live stream out to you guys as we talk about episode 99, the latest episode of the Harmony and Chaos series for season 4. Brandon Henderson starts off by saying hello and happy Labor Day Eve, everybody. Elijah apparently is teleporting over drawbridges. And I like the fact that you brought ponies, hedgehogs, and chaos emeralds. You know we need that magic to get us started, Elijah. Levi is here, says hello. Before we get into the episode, I do want to get into some of the new things I'm going to do with the live stream. One of the things I'm going to start doing is I'm not going to pay attention to the chat as much to keep the live stream rolling. A lot of times you guys are chatting amongst yourselves, so I'm not going to revert to the chat that much. Any questions that you guys direct towards me, I will answer them at the end of the stream, when we just kind of do our wrap up, unless it's something very pertinent to what we're talking about or an opinion. Then I might stop the podcast to go into the chat. Let's see. Anyway, basically, before we also dive in, I kind of want to make some references here. Harmony and Chaos moving forward as far as the next several episodes, we're going to get kind of 2 peaceful-esque episodes where there's not much action. But after that, you've got about 6 or 7 consecutive episodes of just fighting. So I'm going to just throw that out there. It's pretty much going to get pretty violent. And I promised that season 4 was going to be off the wall, crazy, and very action-packed. Elijah could probably back that up, because I sent him like a list of like the next 8 episodes or whatever. And he can tell you just by the titles of them that they're going to be hard-hitting after these next 2. So this episode of Harmony and Chaos, episode 99, was titled The Demons of the Past. And I always try to title things very, strategically. And, mainly because there's a couple of characters in the episode that are dealing with stuff from their past. Shadow being one of them. Obviously, Shadow at the end of the episode gets one of the biggest surprises that he's had in the series. And he's going to get more as the season goes on. Another one is we dove into Infinite's backstory, how he came into possession of the Phantom Ruby, how he met Eggman. I tried to keep it as canon as possible. I also added some of my own little flair and flavor to it, as it kind of has to, because of HC is my series, so I kind of had to put my own little spin on it. It's pretty accurate as far as what you got in the actual Sonic Forces comic. Other characters who are dealing with stuff. We'll talk about Fluttershy and Tails as well. Obviously, they had some things. Pinkie Pie is another one. And then, of course, we all saw the ending with Chrysalis. And quite possibly the worst demonic entity that Equestria has seen, other than maybe Dark Swirl. I still think Chrysalis is worse. I still think she's worse. But Brandon Henderson is enjoying the NHRA races. He also says, let's all give a huge get well soon to my racing hero, John Force, who crashed at the NHRA Virginia Nationals and is currently in rehab. I know there's football on tonight, opening day for football. There's a lot of things going on in the sports world tonight. We had college football. If you're a WWE fan, you watched Bash in Berlin like I did. Brandon says, I hope I'm not spamming, but will the Equestria... No. The Equestria girls will not be in Harmony and Chaos. I didn't follow that series. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't follow Equestria Girls at all. I know a few things here and there. It was not my cup of tea. They may make an appearance here or there. I might, but as far as them, they won't be like if they do, it won't be anything permanent. I'm trying to keep it in the pony realm. My thoughts on MLP G5, I hate it, Brandon. I can't watch it. I can't. I am praying for somehow G4 to make a return, if I'm being honest. So we get into the episode, and it starts off with Infinite leaving Eggman. And the big question on everybody's mind was probably, well, why is Infinite leaving Eggman? Well, Infinite gives you his answer because he feels like, in Infinite's mind, he feels like he has gotten everything he could possibly gain from Eggman. After seeing Eggman's ship blow up, Infinite doesn't think that Eggman has the resources now to take over Equestria. So Infinite's kind of looking at Eggman as, okay, he's a failure. He's completely useless. I've already got the Phantom Ruby. I no longer need him. So I'm going to take over Equestria myself. As a matter of fact, you hear Infinite tell Eggman, I think it's best if you just retire and stay the hell out of my way, because Equestria belongs to me now. Eggman tries to plead with Infinite by telling him, look, we salvaged some of my bots. You know, we were able to salvage some of my bots and we got Titan. We'll be okay. Like, we could still take over Equestria. Infinite doesn't really want to hear about it. He's not interested in staying with Eggman at all. He kind of wants to go off and rule Equestria for himself. Infinite's warning was basically just stay out of my way and we won't have a problem. Also in the opening sequence, Infinite gives Eggman the news that Zavok is dead. What was left of Zavok is scattered out in outer space amongst the rest of the debris of the ship. Let's see. So, and he also confirmed that indeed Metal Sonic was destroyed as well. We'll come to find out later on in the episode that they are going to be able to track down Metal Sonic's exact location. So Eggman can try to salvage whatever scrap he can. And basically that was the opening scene in a nutshell. We didn't really get much as far as Infinite's backstory yet. But scattered throughout the episode, we go back and forth with after Infinite leaves Eggman. And we start to nitpick and we start to pick away at his backstory. And we come to find out that he has quite a bitter rivalry and hatred for Shadow. For those of you who know what happens in the Sonic Forces comics, we'll get into it more when we dive into that actual part of the discussion. But we know that there's some tension between Eggman or Shadow and Infinite as well. So after we open with Infinite and Eggman, go into the opening credits. First scene out of the opening credits, we go to when we went to Rarity's boutique. We're not going to discuss that. But then after that, we go to Fluttershy's cottage, and Fluttershy is got Tails over in her basement. Tails is trying to clean out his workshop. He's now living at Twilight's Castle with Cosmo. So he's trying to clean out all of the projects he was working on in Fluttershy's basement. So Charmy has the basement to kind of like as his own little domain. As Tails is cleaning out the basement, Fluttershy goes downstairs and has a discussion with Tails. Okay. And the discussion starts off pretty innocently. Fluttershy just basically wants to know how Tails has been. Tails kind of gives like a nonchalant, yeah, I'm all right, going through it, I'm all right. Fluttershy immediately picks up that didn't sound very convincing. Um, and then Tails begins to explain to Fluttershy that he still has feelings for her and that he may have acted a bit too rash when going back with Cosmo. And if you go back to what happened between Fluttershy and Tails, in the moment that Fluttershy was under Dark Swirl's spell and she attacked Tails, Tails was also, like Fluttershy, not in the right frame of mind. Um, we know Fluttershy was evilly corrupted by the magic of Dark Swirl, and she tried to kill Tails. Tails was pretty much getting beat up pretty bad, and as it would just so happen, Cosmo's seed that Tails planted on Fluttershy's property would fully bloom, thus bringing Cosmo back to life. And by doing so, Cream was given a second chance to kind of watch over Cosmo as her guardian angel. So Cosmo, having her first act in Equestria was saving Tails' life from Fluttershy, Tails kind of falls for Cosmo in that moment all over again. Like, he rushes into her arms, thanks her, and they have a romantic moment. And keep in mind that Tails technically was engaged to Cosmo still at this point because she had died in that battle with the Metarex. So technically their engagement, now that she was back, was still technically not null and void yet. So she came back, and one of the first questions Tails asked Cosmo was, is this for real? Are you back? And Cosmo said, yes, I've been brought back to life because you planted my seed. And it took almost a year, but I was able to rebloom and be reincarnated, essentially, and come back to life. And the thing about Cosmo's seed is that it has all of her, like, whatever memories she had up until her death. I spun it where that little seed has memories. So, I mean, if you think about it, it does make all of her memories would be stored in that seed, and then she was able, so she has all of her memories intact. It's not like she was completely reborn, but like that was kind of the gist of that. So Tails basically not really, once Fluttershy goes back to normal and the spell is broken, Tails sees the amount of damage him leaving Fluttershy dead. He sees that he hurt her. He still loves her, and the thing about it is that he, in that moment when Fluttershy was trying to kill him, he just rushed right back to Cosmo right away, and he really didn't give it thought about Fluttershy until after, when she went back to normal, and he sees the kind of pain that he put her through. Tails knows that it wasn't Fluttershy's fault. He knows, like, rationally, like, it was an evil spell that caused her to try to kill him. So Tails gets that part of it, which is why he has those unresolved feelings for Fluttershy. He felt like he did her dirty, essentially. So as that scene goes on, they continue talking, and Tails tells Fluttershy, I'm having second thoughts about Cosmo and us in general. Like, I still feel like there's some unresolved feelings. He's like, my feelings for Cosmo hasn't changed. It's just I didn't realize how much love I still have for you, and it's affecting my relationship with Cosmo, is essentially what Tails was getting at. Fluttershy is really shocked by this. She's completely caught off guard by Tails' revelation at this point, because in Fluttershy's mind, she's already she hasn't fully moved on, but she's already getting emotionally invested with Vector. So now she's got Tails saying that he still has feelings for her. Meanwhile, she's developing feelings for Vector, but she doesn't want to rush into a relationship right away for obvious reasons. She's still hurting over Tails. And especially now that Tails has opened up to her and says he still has feelings for her, Fluttershy is even going to want to move more slowly when it comes to Vector, because now she's torn because she herself still loves Tails as well. How does Shy feel? Like I said, she still is in love with Tails. She still has those feelings. The thing about it is now she's developing feelings for Vector, and she cannot get off the fact that Tails ran right back to Cosmo. So Fluttershy is feeling like she's second best. Like the love that she had with Tails essentially mattered nothing to him, because he ran right back to Cosmo as soon as she was resurrected. Fluttershy gets really emotional here. She basically tells Tails, "Look, I'm over you. Like I've made peace with the fact that you and I are done. This can't. I don't have feelings for you." And she storms off crying. And as she's storming out of her cottage to go see Pinkie Pie, Vector sees her running out the door in tears, and he asks, "Fluttershy, what's wrong? What happened?" She basically blows him off and runs out the door. And at this point, Vector goes downstairs to meet up with Tails to say, "Hey, haven't you done enough damage to her? Like, what's your problem, Tails?" Tails, for the first time in this episode, tells Vector to mind his own business. You know, what is going on between him and Fluttershy is their business and not his. And he said, "Look, we had some unresolved feelings come up, and that's the end of it. It's really none of your business." Vector's like, "Okay, fine, I get it," but Tails doesn't want to deal with Vector right now. So he literally takes whatever stuff he came for and then leaves Fluttershy's cottage. And that's basically how Fluttershy and Tails ends in that particular scene. The next really big thing I want to discuss is Philia. And we're just going to have like a general recap on Philia. Now, the thing about Philia, I'm not going to go back into the whole 5 or 6 minute backstory that I gave Philia. Basically, all Philia is an OC. Obviously, it's Solario's OC. And fictitiously, she is Shadow's canon sister in Harmony and Chaos. We are going to find out more about Philia and Shadow and about their past as season 4 goes on. So keep that in mind. I don't want to spoil it. I want to keep you guys... I just want to plant that seed that there is a lot more to Philia and Shadow's story than what already has been told, or the backstory that I've given. That's just like your basic backstory. There's the whole Mobius backstory about how they came into them leaving Mobius and joining up with Gerald Robotnik and basically becoming mercenaries in their own right. So as we would come to find out, Shadow and Philia wound up leaving home. We don't know why yet. Again, that's coming. And there's a very big storyline that is involved with that, which is why I'm not spoiling it. So we come to find out, for whatever reason, Shadow and Philia leave Mobius to go off and do their own thing.
Power off.
Bluetooth speaker. All right, so we get the backstory. Along the way in their travels, Shadow and Philia wind up meeting Gerald Robotnik, and he says he has a business proposition for them. Well, that... Thanks, Lion God. Lion God says, "Power off." Fluttershy's cottage, I think, does have a basement. They never actually showed it, but it's more like an underground thing. Well, it does. I could have sworn Fluttershy was down there once, and I'm pretty sure in Butterflies, Fluttershy has like secret. She has a basement and then has like a secret cave underneath there. In Butterflies, so I kind of just spun it off that. Brandon Henderson says you should make a prequel to Harmony and Chaos where the battle with the Metarex occurs. Yeah, I could do that, but again, Harmony and Chaos is so long. And the thing about Harmony and Chaos is the more that I write this series, the more freaking ideas pop into my head, and it extends the series longer. So, I'm worried that I'm never going to finish this series in my lifespan. I mean, I'm 40. So, I'm worried that I'm never going to finish my hobby. So, no, I joke. But let's see. Lion God does not, he does not want the flashbacks of cupcakes and or butterflies. I have a hard time. Butterflies I had a problem with just because it's Fluttershy. And picturing Fluttershy as a psychotic killer, I can't. I don't know. Everybody has that theory. Oh, it's always the quiet ones. It's Fluttershy. Come on. Fluttershy is not a serial killer. I can see it with Pinkie Pie, though. Pinkamena. I can see Pinkamena being a serial killer. I can. I definitely can. No, Shadow will not have his motorcycle in Harmony Chaos. At least it's not planned that way. He's got his guns. Tails made him some guns, though. So at least Shadow has his guns. Lion God says, I literally just got over the friendship test. I have not watched it. I probably, if you had the reaction that you did to friendship test, I probably won't watch it. I have a hard time with creepypastas. I really do. This is the last one that I'm going to get into here. Brandon says, I strongly feel like Discord being rejected by Celestia being the reason he first took over Equestria is a bad reason. I know in Harmony and Chaos, that's not the reason he was evil. He was never rejected by Celestia. Nightshade was rejected by Celestia in Harmony and Chaos. Celestia was always in love with Discord, but because Discord was kind of chaotic and evil, she never really got to tell him that, and she kind of changed her opinion on Discord. But that's neither. The thing is that's something different. So, let's see here. So, getting back into Philia and Shadow. Again, I always feel like that when I bring in an OC, that I bring OCs in a very realistic way. And I try to do as much justice to the OCs as I can. I know Solar is very happy with how Philia and Bonnet are being written currently. I've got a whole list of their headcanons. So you're going to learn more about Philia and Bonnet as season 4 and the series continues on in general. Season 4 is getting out of control. I've already written like a rough outline of the next 7 or 8 episodes. It's crazy. Like I don't think I'm going to be able to do what I wanted to do in season 4. Like with the wedding and all that other stuff, because this battle that's going to start soon is so massive that it literally, we're going to have consistent full episodes of fighting. Let's see. Brandon wants to know what happened to the other Draconiqui or Draconiqui. I don't know. They might still exist. I don't know if Discord is the last of his kind. Maybe Discord was so corrupt that he wiped out his own kind. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. I haven't even thought about making that part of the series, to be honest. Maybe it's something that Discord discusses at the end of life, like when he's getting close to his death. So moving on, again, I tried to do OC's justice. I know Will Atkinson has been very pleased with how I've written Nightshade, Prince William, and Fidget when he was alive. God bless and God rest Mr. Fidget. We all miss Fidget, especially you, Hunter, and me. Anyway, so as the backstory for Felia continues, we come to find out that after the Space Colony Arc incident happens, Shadow used Chaos Control after that battle. Because if you remember from Sonic X, Shadow was thought to be dead and he disappears for a while. Now, I think there's a theory about like there's multiple prototypes of Shadow. I'm not getting into all that. Nah. There's one Shadow. There's one ultimate life form. So Shadow literally uses Chaos Control to return back to Mobius. For whatever reason, we don't know. And I don't think I'm ever gonna explain why he went back to Mobius in that instant. But after the battle of the Space Colony Arc concludes, we would come to find out that the government found out about Felia and her separate preservation chamber, which was kept on, it was separated from Shadow's, which is why they didn't find it right away, because they wanted to keep Shadow and Felia's chamber separate. So if one of them was found, they couldn't find the other one. Basically is what it is. You know how the government, you know how the conspiracy theories are with the government. So they kept them separated and in separate areas far from each other. But when they found Felia's preservation chamber, it was agreed that the Thorndikes would take Felia in because during that time, they still had Sonic and all the rest of the Mobians staying at the Thorndikes mansion. And they were trying to figure out how to stop the space. They were trying to figure out how to repair the rip in the space time continuum that was caused by Sonic on Mobius in the very first episode of Sonic X, where Sonic used Chaos Control to teleport everybody and the Chaos Emeralds to Earth. So because of that, we had Mobius and Earth merging together. Had that happened, there would have been the time itself would have stopped. So in order to prevent that from happening, eventually the Thorndikes would create a chaos machine that would artificially create chaos control or chaos energy, and it would send Sonic and his friends, along with Eggman and all the Chaos Emeralds, it would send them all back to Mobius. As you guys know, if you've watched Sonic X, it worked, and the space-time continuum, the rip, was repaired. So Felia, having traveled to Earth by natural means and not by chaos control, could not travel to Mobius, because had she traveled to Mobius with the rest of them, the same thing would have happened. And again, you would have had chaos control bringing somebody to another world that shouldn't be there. So that's why she elected to stay on Earth, or why she had to, because she was not originally brought to Earth by chaos control like Sonic and their friends and his friends were. She would come to start. She would work at Thorndike Industries along with Chris. Felia met Bonnet working at Thorndike Industries. And we would come to find out in this backstory that Chris being an adult. Now, keep in mind, in Sonic X, before Chris builds his own machine and leaves Earth to go join Sonic and stuff, he's a full-fledged adult. I would say somewhere between the ages of 20 and 25 at that point. So adult Chris starts a relationship with Bonnet. We would come to find out that Bonnet was one of Chris's data interpreters. She worked directly with Chris on his team at Thorndike Industries. They had a very passionate fling. I don't want to say Chris was in love with Bonnet, but Bonnet wasn't necessarily 100% emotionally in love with Chris. She liked Chris a lot. The thing about it is that Chris's insane work schedule at Thorndike Industries is what played into him not being able to hold down a relationship. And in actual Sonic X, Chris actually described why he left Earth, because he missed Sonic and his friends, and he could not physically handle life on Earth anymore because he had no life. He was literally living at Thorndike Industries for the most part. Lion God says, I really know my X lore. I really do. I've watched Sonic X at least twice from start to finish. So yeah, Sonic X is probably my favorite Sonic series per se. I think they could have done a lot more with the series, to be honest. But yeah, Sonic X is my favorite Sonic series. I felt like what they did do, they could have done more with. And obviously, I feel like Sonic X ended way too soon. I feel like there was so much more they could have done. I've watched both, actually. I've watched the English dub twice. I don't want to say I've watched the full Japanese. I've seen a lot of the Japanese episodes, like the ones that were important, like with Shadow, especially the more violent episodes, the ones that the Japanese didn't really edit, like 4Kids did. Brandon said he watched it on Netflix. Actually, I'm pretty sure you can watch every episode of Sonic X on YouTube. I think the whole series is actually on YouTube. So you could actually watch the whole series right on YouTube for free. The whole series is there. Don't ask me how, but it is. The Japanese version is a lot better. Me personally, I have a hard time watching anime when I'm trying to read the sub, when I'm reading the subtitles. I almost feel like when you're watching a sub, you almost have to watch it twice. It's because I want to get the dialogue and get what's being said. But with that being said, if you've seen Sonic X in the English version, you kind of know the gist of the story. But again, like with subtitles, I'm so focused on the subtitles that I don't really pay attention as much to what's going on screen, which is why I try to avoid subs. Yeah. Where was I? So we as Harmony and Chaos started in season 1, we saw that Chris, instead of going to Mobius, goes to Equestria. And the chaos energy affects Chris. It actually reverses the clock and turns him into a child. Now, what Chris did was different. He was able to mimic chaos energy, and he was able to use it to sink into the Master Emerald, which was on Equestria, which is how he was able to open the portal. And you're not going to have that rip in the space-time continuum because the Chaos Emeralds were not transported to another world when he did it. So that's why we're not going to get that same story of like Earth going to merge with Equestria. That's not going to happen. Obviously, because Chris and Felia did it a little bit differently. So we would come to find out that Bonnet broke up with Chris and then wound up falling in love with Felia. Felia and Bonnet continue their life. They start dating. They work at Thorndike Industries for a while, and then they both wind up leaving Thorndike Industries to do their own things. In the meantime, they stay together, and they are still together as a canon couple, as we would come to find out in the episode. The very first scene we see Ophelia and Bonnet, they're getting ready to go out to dinner, and they get a knock on the door, and it's Nelson Thorndike. Nelson tells Ophelia he has a business proposition for her. And Ophelia immediately thinking, look, Nelson, if this is about me coming back to Thorndike Industries, just get out. a knot. Nelson tells her, no, it's not about you coming back to Thorndike Industries. However, it is about Chris. We found Chris alive, Felia. Chris is alive. And I basically have found his notes that have the coordinates to the world that he transported to. So Chris didn't really want to be found, but he didn't want his family to worry that he was dead. So after his disappearance, so the day Chris used the machine to travel to Equestria, he wound up sending a letter to his father at Thorndike Industries. And of course, Nelson got the letter. Basically, Chris saying, I'm still alive. Basically rebuilt Grandpa's time machine, and I've gone off to another world to go be with Sonic. I've basically left to go be with Sonic and his friends. But see, Nelson immediately thinks that Chris went to Mobius. But as Chris's father is doing some digging, he comes to find out that the coordinates that he finds in Chris's locker do not match the coordinates for Mobius. And the other thing is if Nelson was going to try to use this machine, he couldn't because Chris damaged the power cells and he erased the hard drive. So Nelson had no idea. When he finds the coordinates, he's thinking that Chris went to Mobius. And and then when he matches the notes with what they had originally, he goes, these coordinates don't match up with Mobius. So where is Chris? If he went to Sonic's world, these coordinates don't match. Knowing that he can't use the machine, he knows that Felia has a lot of power. So his request to Felia is that he is going to give her $2 billion to essentially power up Chris's machine so she could tap into the coordinates to whatever Chris had in his notes. And Chris needed those coordinates so he could tap into the Master Emerald. So Nelson's like, I have Chris's coordinates. I just have no way of powering up the machine to use it because Chris completely drained the power cells. And so Felia's like, oh, so you need me to basically open up the portal. Okay, Nelson. And he offers Felia $2 billion. And she's like, okay. It's at this point where he tells Felia, also, when you open the portal, you're going to be the one who goes into the portal to go get Chris. And she's like, no. He's your son, Nelson. If you want him back so badly, you go find him. And he's like, no, I have a corporation to run, Felia. I'm going to pay you $2 billion to go find Chris. You go and do it. So she agrees. Of course, who would turn down $2 billion? Because we all know Chris's family is freaking loaded. His mom's an actress. His dad runs a freaking corporation that has pretty much Eggman technology. So, yeah, Chris's family is like the Briefs family in Dragon Ball. They're freaking loaded. So, yeah, Michael Collins says, I agree with Nelson. He kind of agrees with Nelson. Bonnet also wants to tag along because, as we would find out, that Bonnet is a veterinarian. She's a traveling veterinarian. So she travels around helping out different vet clinics just to kind of get like a different feel of things in different areas, different parts of the world. So she wants to tag along because for a couple reasons. One, she's in love with Felia, and that's her girlfriend, and she wants to be with her. Number two, she's Felia's personal doctor. So she feels that if Felia is in dire need of medical attention, she should be there for Felia in that regard. Felia very reluctantly is like, oh, fine. You could tag along. You make a good point. She says, you make a good point, I guess, about being my doctor in case I do need you. Oh, I got to get a drink. Michael Collins says, I also noticed you replied to my comment. That's why I said I will reply to the comments that are like pertinent for the conversation. So if you guys put stuff in the chat, see, a lot of times I'll read through the chat, and a lot of times what I'm reading is you guys just having normal conversation in the chat. So I don't want to necessarily read that during the live stream. So if you guys are going to direct a question toward me, just say, hey, Michael. I'm not always going to stop it. Like I said, I want to try to leave questions for the end. But if you guys do make a valid point in the chat about what we're talking about, then I will stop to read a comment here or there. It's just, like I said, I've noticed you guys do a lot of chatting amongst yourselves in there, and I don't want to be just reading random stuff. I am glancing at it just to see. Brandon Henderson says, to be honest, I feel like the ponies of Equestria are way too forgiving for their own good. You never see us forgive all the crime committers. I think part of the reason too, Brandon, is obviously Chrysalis made her choices and she's evil to the core. But for somebody like the elements of harmony being corrupted by Dark Swirl, they obviously were corrupted by magic. As we come to see in this episode, Twilight has this theory where maybe, just maybe, Infinite is being corrupted by the Phantom Ruby. She said because as we learned, the Phantom Ruby was created by Princess Soletta and has the magic of herself, Dark Swirl, and they also stole the magic from a lot of unicorns on Mobius. The thing behind it was Soletta kind of, I didn't really get into this backstory yet because this backstory is coming later on in the season. But as we would come to find out, Soletta wanted, she wanted a gemstone that could rival the Chaos Emeralds. So she assumed that if she was able to absorb like portions of magic from every pony in the Equestrian Empire on Mobius, she felt that she could create one emerald or one gemstone that was capable of being as powerful as the Chaos Emeralds. And we all know that the Echidnas were the ones responsible for watching over the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald. So she didn't really want to go to war with the Echidnas over that, but she also knew she couldn't fulfill her goals of taking over Mobius as long as the Echidnas still had the Chaos Emeralds. You guys in the chat are talking about humans, I can see. But as far as the crime committers, Brandon, I feel like they're willing to give second chances to those who are corrupted. Discord was given a second chance, and we obviously see how that turned out. Sometimes I feel like Discord, after he was quote unquote, what's the word I'm looking for? After he was turned to the good side, I still feel like he had to like fulfill his urges of chaos, which is why he had moments where he would fall off the wagon. It's kind of like an addict when they fall off a wagon. Discord was addicted to all the chaos that he would create, that every once in a while he kind of had to create a little bit of chaos for his own good. But I think that's one of the reasons why Discord wasn't fully reformed, but for the most part he was as well. Michael Collins said, I think Celestia wouldn't be too happy about a third human in Equestria. Yes, the third human being Bonnet. Obviously, you have Eggman and Chris. And if you want to count Felia being able to shapeshift, then you can have 4. I think at this point, Princess Celestia is basically over it. She does have a little bit of a reaction to Felia and Bonnet in the next episode. So in episode 100, Celestia does interact and have a reaction to seeing Bonnet. And she's just kind of like, ugh, with everything we're going through, I really don't care. So Brandon says, I can understand why some people hate Discord, but you can't dislike him. Well, I missed it. The freaking emote is like right there. Oh, come on. I can't read all of your comment yet, Brandon, because I've got this little emote thing on the side over there. So, yeah, this one, the one that does that. So, yeah, I can't see with that thing in the middle of my screen. So getting back into it, reluctantly, Felia agrees. I shouldn't say reluctantly. She reluctantly allows Bonnet to come along. She's worried about Bonnet's safety because you don't know what a new world is going, what's going to happen in a new world. So let's see. After that, we'll stop with the Felia lore for now. So Felia and Bonnet agree to help Nelson. So they go, they leave their apartment and they go off with Nelson. We'll get back into it a little bit near the end. I wanted to do the whole Felia recap now, but we'll dive back into it after we talk about Infinite because I feel like we got to stay in order. So the next thing I want to talk about are Infinite's demons. Michael Collins says, I love Earth, but I think it's kind of boring compared to Equestria and other fantasy worlds. I agree. If you want to look at our world of politics, yeah, well, the world is kind of a mess right now, to be honest. Our own world. So we're going to dive into Infinite now, and into Infinite's demons. Infinite, as we all know, he and his Jackal squad, much like Shadow, kind of did things like mercenary-wise. His squad is a squad of mercenaries where they basically get paid to do jobs, and that could be anything ranging from espionage to murder to whatever they get paid and agreed to do. So, obviously, during Infinite's backstories, the first thing that pops up, and I wanted to really touch base on, was how Infinite came to know Eggman and how he came into the knowledge of the Phantom Ruby and how he would eventually come into possession of the Phantom Ruby. Now, as we would come to find out about the Phantom Ruby through Celestia, that the Phantom Ruby is actually a magical stone that contains pony magic. And keep that in mind because it's going to play a role in episode 100. So somewhere along the lines, Eggman kind of entered Infinite's territory, or like where Infinite and his squad called home, like where their hideout was. Infinite gets a report back. He sends a squad out to kind of investigate Eggman's whereabouts. And like, okay, so what's Eggman doing in our territory? I'm going to send out a couple of our squadmen. I'll have them go look. Infinite's the group, or I think he sent out two. He sent out he sent out two jackals from his squad to go check on Eggman. They never came back. So then Infinite immediately after figuring out his guys aren't coming back, decides, okay, we're going to go and invade Eggman ourselves. But here's the thing. We want to take all that Eggman tech and try to sell it and make some money. One of the first rules that Infinite did here is that he didn't have any intel because the guys that he sent out were killed. They never went back to report back to Infinite. So first mistake Infinite makes is he goes out to see what Eggman is doing without any intel. And another rule that they broke as a mercenary squad is they are now going into business for themselves. So typically when a mercenary squad gets hired, they're given all of the information that they need to succeed in whatever mission they agree to take. So again, Infinite and his squad is going into this battle with Eggman blind. They don't necessarily know what Eggman's doing, but they know that there is technology there that they can try to pawn off and make money on it. That's Infinite's grand plan. So Infinite's plan is to split the squad up. One team is going to invade from the back after the team that invades the front invades first, to kind of draw the fire to the front. The team that's in the back will go in through the back and start trying to steal the technology. Let's see. You guys are talking in the chat. Michael Collins says, and this is why I said this is why I will interrupt the live stream for stuff like this. Michael Collins says, I'm honestly surprised Infinite's squad lost to Eggman. That is canon to the Sonic Forces comics. They did lose to Eggman. They were overwhelmed. Now, keep in mind, the Jackals are not like Sonic. They're not like Shadow. They don't have any kind of special like powers. Their powers are in numbers. So they were very overwhelmed by Eggman's technology. And they were not anticipating losing or Eggman having the amount of firepower that he did. He kind of thought it was just like a secondary base, but I'll get into it more as we're talking about this backstory. And it says, let's see. Michael Collins also says, Eggman is smart, but also overconfident. And Brandon says, and dumb. Yeah, you would think for a genius. What? What did I miss? All right, never mind. See, this is why I don't really want to go into the chat very much, because it throws me off. So anyway, we get back into it, and so Infinite's, yeah, he has an IQ of 200, by the way. But you know what, though, Lion God? There is a saying that people who are book smart are completely stupid as fuck when it comes to common sense. And you know what? That is 100% accurate. People who are geniuses are dumb as hell when it comes to common sense. They have zero common sense. Do you want to know why they have zero common sense? They have zero common sense because they don't have social skills. They're so busy focusing on being geniuses that they lack severely in social skills. So I've seen it with my own. Anybody who's smart that I've met in my life that are geniuses, they are not smart when it comes to street smarts. You're either street smart or you're book smart. It's one or the other. Me, I'm street smart. I'm more street smart than book smart. I'm book smart enough, but definitely, yeah, I've known my fair share. I work with a lot of geniuses, to be honest with you, and they're not smart. They definitely don't know how to run a business. So, yeah, we'll leave it at that. I'm not, you guys, yeah. I've seen a lot of geniuses, and they're not, yeah. Being a genius does not make you street smart. So, we're going to move on. I want to stay on task here because I got a barbecue to go to. So I'm trying to stay on task. So, Eggman, so Infinite and his squad invade Eggman's base. They don't know what they're going to find per se. They just think it's Eggman and technology. They don't necessarily know what the hell Eggman's doing there. But it's a secret base that Eggman has set up so he can study the Phantom Ruby. So as they invade, they very quickly get overwhelmed by Eggman's machinery to the point where it becomes like a battle of survival. So during this battle, Infinite and a couple of his other teammates wind up going upstairs, or they wind up finding Eggman and cornering Eggman. And just before Infinite was actually trying to kill Eggman. He swings, and this is canon. This is canon Sonic Forces comic. Infinite swings his sword And as he swings his sword, Eggman dodges the attack because he's in his little carrier. He's in his little floating carrier, so he flies away, dodges Infinite's attack. Infinite strikes the Phantom Ruby with his sword. The sword gives Infinite and Eggman, in the canon, it gives Infinite and Eggman visions of Infinite and his squad working together to take over Mobius. And that's how we get the Sonic Forces storyline. We get that Sonic Forces storyline because obviously Infinite and his squad would join Eggman. The part in Sonic Forces that you did not get was the part with Shadow. That part was omitted from the video game. Why? I don't know. I don't know why they omitted that from the video game because it was important, which is why I put it in Harmony and Chaos. Again, that was something that they got, I don't know if they got lazy or if they just didn't want to do it. If they didn't want to add that backstory. How badass would Sonic Forces have been had you had that separate story with Shadow? Maybe there is a version. Maybe they've brought out a version of that. I don't know. If there is, I haven't seen it yet. Maybe there's a downloadable version of Sonic Forces where you can get the Shadow end of the story. But it was completely omitted from the original game. So some of this might come as shock. So as this scene goes on, Infinite obviously agrees to work for Eggman. Eggman makes a deal with Infinite and says, I will give you the Phantom Ruby and you will serve me, and I will spare your squad if you serve me, Jackal. So Infinite squad, legitimately, a good portion of Infinite squad in the canon Sonic Forces comic was wiped out by Eggman. Eggman wound up taking a good chunk of Infinite squad and killing them. So this is another kind of a reason why Infinite kind of makes this deal. The other part that happens is while Infinite is working for Eggman, Eggman is still running. He's still running tests on the Phantom Ruby in the Mystic Ruins Temple, the ruins of the Mystic Temple. That's where this all kind of takes place. So Shadow catches wind of this Phantom Ruby, and canonly, Shadow then attacks Eggman's base to try to get the Phantom Ruby for himself. Eggman would flee with the Phantom Ruby, and it basically left Infinite and what was left of his squad at the mercy of Shadow. Now, keep in mind, Infinite squad cannot handle Shadow. They cannot. They are no match for Shadow. Shadow obliterates the remainder of Infinite squad. And this, again, is canon. Shadow would come to obliterate the rest of Infinite squad. However, he allowed Infinite to live. For whatever reason, he let Infinite live, which would come to be a mistake. Both in Sonic Forces and in Harmony and Chaos. During one of the flashback scenes, you see that moment between Shadow and Infinite, where you come to find out that one of Infinite's demons is Shadow. Shadow in Harmony and Chaos lore and in the Sonic Forces lore, Shadow wiped out what was left of Infinite squad. And after Infinite, now this is where things differ from Harmony and Chaos and Sonic Forces. Obviously in Sonic Forces, I don't know if it happened or not, but in Sonic Forces, after the flashback is over, Infinite doesn't just go off and level a freaking city. No. In Harmony and Chaos, after reliving the Shadow moment, Infinite goes completely berserk. He comes out of the flashback and blasts an energy wave toward Colcago. Colcago is not a real city in Equestria. I kind of made it up because I needed a city to destroy. So My own hometown of Chicago, Chicago, gets obliterated. At least a third of the city gets obliterated by Infinite's explosion of rage using the Phantom Ruby. Twilight and Shadow. Now I say Shadow. Twilight senses it immediately. Shadow also senses Alicorn magic. Keep in mind, Shadow no longer has the Alicorn powers that were given to him. They've ran out. However, those Alicorn powers that Shadow was given awakened an ability inside of Shadow that, due to his amnesia, forgot about it. Keep that in mind, because that is a huge part of the storyline in season 4, especially the first half. So, as this scene continues, Twilight is completely shocked at the amount of power Infinite released in this attack. It is like a power she has never felt, ever. It was a massive release of anger and Alicorn power. Shadow felt it. And he's not even an Alicorn. But keep that in mind. So, he gets Sonic during this moment. As we see Infinite, after the initial shock, we go back to Infinite. And obviously, he's very pleased with the work he did. And the whole point of it is he wanted to send a message to the ponies and to Sonic and Shadow just how powerful that ruby is. So he did that to send a message. And also, as we would learn, Celestia and Discord would leave Canterlot, which becomes a big part of the end of the episode. They would leave Canterlot to go investigate what happened. So kind of this works out to Infinite's advantage in a lot of ways. As the scene goes on, Sonic gets on the communicator and makes contact with Shadow and says, "Oh my, did you feel that? That was a massive surge of Alicorn power, and it's frightening." And Shadow tells Sonic, "I know, I felt it. I already told you." And Sonic's like, "Well, how though? You're not an Alicorn." He's like, "I don't know." He's like, "I don't know how I felt it, Sonic." He's like, I can't explain it, but it's almost like the Alicorn powers I absorbed awakened something inside of me. Maybe that's what it is. Because now as we would come to find out, Shadow was starting to have all these memory flashbacks of this power feeling familiar to him, the Alicorn power. So the scene continues, and basically Shadow tells Sonic over the communicators, "Look, we'll finish this conversation when we have the party at Twilight's tonight. We're having this 1-year anniversary party tonight, and we'll talk about it then." The last little bit I want to talk about that destruction of Chicago. Like I had said, Infinite wanted to show off his powers with that Phantom Ruby. He did this pretty much because he exploded with rage, but he wanted to make sure he made a point that he's incredibly powerful, and that he wanted to release this energy as a message. So after that, I want to get into the, obviously Rouge shows up at the castle. But before Rouge went to the castle, she had a scene with Pinkie Pie. And I want to open up a general discussion about Pinkie Pie as to where are we going with Pinkie Pie? So as we come to find out, Pinkie Pie, you guys are arguing. See, yeah, you guys have your fun in the chat. I lived in Chicago. I was born in Chicago, Brandon, so I know all about the Great Chicago Fire. Yeah, that whole fire in Chicago started because of a cow kicking over a lantern, if you'll believe it. That's basically it. Yeah. So with Pinkie Pie, I said Pinkie Pie kind of has her own demons to deal with. Obviously, she's still going through depression over Manic. So the question becomes, where are we going with Pinkie Pie? Make it try to lose any of my notes. Yeah, where are we going with Pinkie Pie? The thing with Pinkie Pie is the Grand Galloping Gala is going to become pretty important for Pinkie to get closure. She's just going through this massive depression because, again, same as Fluttershy, she inflicted major mental trauma to the hedgehog she was in love with, or to the guy she's in love with, which was Manic. And she has a lot of regret about it. So she's just kind of living with it at this point. She can't get over it. She misses Manic. But Pinkie Pie is going to get her closure in a couple of episodes. She will finally get her closure in a couple of episodes. So just kind of bear with the Pinkie Pie stuff. Pinkie Pie is so depressed over losing Manic that she did not show up to the Mobians 1-year anniversary party. That's how depressed she is, because she did not want to go. That's how depressed she is over this breakup over Manic. But no, Solaria says Pinkie Pie does no wrong. I believe in women's wrongs. But yes. Pinkie, what I mean by Pinkie getting her closure, Brandon, is she gets her closure. Again, it's the Grand Galloping Gala. We know Manic is going to be there because Manic is performing. So obviously Manic's going to be there. She gets her closure. And that's all I'm going to say about it. You'll see what the closure is. I don't want to just spoil everything. But she does get her closure from Manic directly. So no worries there with Pinkie Pie. Moving right along, I wanted to talk about Rouge's engagement, so I have it written down. Hey, Rouge is engaged. End of discussion. Next segment, the party in general. I do want to talk about the party in general. Really, the two big things to happen at the Mobians 1-year anniversary party is the Fluttershy and Tails aftermath and this discussion of Shadow's mysterious abilities. All right, so, and we'll talk about some of the shipping that's going on as well. Obviously, Sonia and Hunter are having this little cute little romantic fling going right now. Elijah says, you know her depression is strong when the party pony doesn't show up to an anniversary party. Exactly. Michael Collins says, like, I wonder if both Shy and Tails were in the wrong. Well, yeah, I mean, that's, again, opinion. It just depends on your... A lot of people, I think it was you, Michael, who said you were really pissed off at Tails during the episode because of how Tails... So, yeah, again, getting back into this, things are going on at the start of this party. Obviously, Twilight still has a little bit of issues with Rainbow Dash stealing the potion that led to Rainbow Dash going out to outer space and rescuing Sonic. Twilight's still kind of upset over that. And then she's also really worried about the attack that Infinite had on Hokago and feeling Infinite's use of Alicorn magic. So Sandash arrive along with Blaze and Silver. And immediately they start getting into their conversation. Rainbow Dash starts the conversation off. I'm sorry, Twilight. Twilight immediately knows what she apologized for, and she says, okay, it's over with. I'm good. It's all good. There's more to worry about. And the discussion then turns to Infinite. Shadow then reveals to everybody, he reveals to Sonic and Silver that he had fought Infinite on Mobius. And Sonic's big thing is, well, why did you let him live? You wiped out the rest of his squad. Why did you let him live? And Shadow says, I don't know. He's like, it's your damn influence, Sonic. You've had an influence on me. I'm giving people second chances. So the conversation continues, and somehow they start talking about the magic. And Sonic wants to know outright, how did you sense the alicorn magic that Infinite released? That's my question. How did you sense it when you're not an alicorn? And even like when the explosion first happened, even Twilight was like, wait, you can't sense alicorn magic unless you're... And then that's when Sonic interrupts their conversation. So like both Twilight and Sonic are both questioning how Shadow could have sensed it. Shadow says, look, I'm not going to lie. Basically, like, maybe the alicorn magic that I absorbed from Celestia, Luna, Twilight, and just maybe it awakens something inside me. Yes, their powers are gone, but maybe it awakened an ability that I had dormant or that I forgot about. Because he even tells Sonic, like, it's always been there. Like, I just forgot that it existed. So there's this kind of theory now where it's like, wait a minute, Shadow is possibly got alicorn blood? He could possibly be an alicorn? What? So, and as you'll find out, things are gonna get really good. So I'm gonna leave it at that. There's a huge backstory brewing from this. So, or a huge story in general, not backstory, but a huge story. So they basically try to figure out, is there any way we can, the big question from Silver, and he has to repeat it, like, is there any way we can get to Silver, or is there any way we can get to Infinite before he attacks like this? Like, there has to be a way we can sense him before he uses the Phantom Ruby to do stuff like this. And Sonic's like, no, Silver, you were there with me when this attack happened. You know I didn't sense it until basically we saw and felt the explosion from Kokago. So there's nothing we can do. Basically the conversation ends with them not really knowing what to do about Infinite. Twilight says, well, I better just get the party started at this point. We're not getting anywhere. There is one other point that Twilight did make in this conversation, and it was, she, again, like, Twilight has this obsession, and I don't know why I write Twilight like this, but she always wants to try to end things peacefully before there's like a war or whatever. And she goes, well, we know that the Phantom Ruby is made of pony magic, mainly Dark Swirl and Soletta's magic, and judging by what we saw, the elements of nightmares due to Sonic and the girls, maybe the Phantom Ruby is having the same effect on Infinite. Maybe it's making him evil and do these crazy things. And Sonic has to tell her, look, Infinite did evil deeds for money back on Mobius. I gotta fix my chair. But yeah, there is some point to what Twilight is making here. Because even Sonic kind of tells Twilight, Infinite is not as evil as you think. Like, he actually has a rational side. He just wants to take over Equestria, is basically what Sonic tells Twilight. But after seeing the explosion in Kokago, Twilight's kind of like, well, she's trying to make an excuse for Infinite. Kind of like, well, maybe, if he's not this horribly evil being, maybe the Phantom Ruby is affecting him the same as the elements of nightmares did with you guys. So that's basically all I want to say about that moment. The other really big thing that's happening at this party is that we have Tails and Vector kind of in this, both being in love with Fluttershy, and Fluttershy trying to figure out her emotions and where she stands. Now, Fluttershy went earlier on in the episode. She went to Sugar Cube Corner to kind of tell Pinkie Pie about what happened. And one of the reasons why Fluttershy comes to the decision that she's about to make is in large part of the discussion she has with Rouge and Pinkie Pie at Sugar Cube Corner. And one of the things that both women, both of her friends, told her to do not take Tails back because he threw you away like trash. And if you really have these strong feelings about Vector, you should pursue Vector and not go backwards to Tails, because it is hurtful when somebody leaves you for somebody else, and you're second fiddle. I can see where that's hurtful. So Fluttershy kind of takes this advice from Rouge and Pinkie Pie and makes her decision. And her decision is when Tails asks her to go out to the terrace, outdoor terrace, Tails wants to continue on with the conversation that he had. I'm getting a cramp in my calves. I got to stretch out for a minute. So the thing is they go out to the terrace to finish their conversation and to get closure on the situation. Tails starts the conversation by saying, basically, I'm still in love with you. Like, I want to continue on our conversation. Fluttershy makes sure she nails the point home to Tails that it's over, that they're done. She's moving on, and she's not second best to Cosmo. And Tails is like, well, I get it, but why though? Like, and he's like, it's Vector, isn't it? You're in love with Vector. That's why. And she says, yes, Vector is who I am moving on with, or if I'm going to move on, I do have feelings for Vector moving forward, and I'm not going to jeopardize that relationship to go back to you. Tails gets very upset over this. And in the past, like especially in season 2, there's always been tension between Discord and Tails. For whatever reason over Fluttershy. I don't know why. Tails was always kind of a little jealous of Discord's relationship with Tails, or with Fluttershy. So, or Tails was always jealous of Discord's relationship with Fluttershy, for whatever reason. So Fluttershy, after she tells Tails she's done, she goes back. Her and Tails go back into the castle to rejoin the party. And again, Vector takes exception to Tails upsetting Fluttershy. So again, we see Vector confront Tails. And at this point, Tails has had enough. He has had enough. He's frustrated and basically tells Vector, stay out of my effing business, dude. And he punches Vector, knocks him to the ground. And everybody at Twilight's castle is shocked that this is going on. Tails storms off. Cosmo goes after Tails to try to figure out what the hell is going on. They have their discussion. So they wind up having their discussion. Cosmo and Tails have their private discussion upstairs in their room, and Tails comes clean to Cosmo. He loves Cosmo. There's no doubt about that. He doesn't that he loves Cosmo. He does. So he comes clean to Cosmo and says, "Look, I'm in love with both of you, and you came back. I never sorted out my feelings for Fluttershy. It was she was under an evil spell. I was madly in love with this girl. She tried to kill me because of the evil spell she was under. And then you came back, saved my life, you healed me, and I didn't have time to sort my feelings out. I just ran right back to you, Cosmo. That's why, like, my feelings for you haven't come back 100% yet, because I'm too busy worrying about, like, what I did with Fluttershy." And Tails tells Cosmo, I have the closure I need now. That's why I was outside with Fluttershy, is because I needed my closure, and that's what we got. Cosmo then asks, well, if it's closure you received, why did you attack Vector? And Tails tells her it's basically out of frustration. Vector was sticking his snout in my business with Fluttershy's. It wasn't his relationship to worry about. I was emotionally invested. Fluttershy was emotionally invested in the relationship. That was our business. And Tails just got frustrated that Vector was sticking his nose in, on top of the fact that Fluttershy just told Tails that she is interested in Vector. So that's kind of the gist of why Tails snapped in that instance. He had had enough, and he just kind of felt like Vector was kind of gloating and sticking his snout in. It's not because Tails is some bad, fox or whatever. He's angry. And you can understand that from that perspective. It doesn't mean that Tails is going to hate Vector. You know, they had a moment. It's like you feud with your friends. I mean, I've gotten into fist fights or gotten into arguments and fights with some of my closest friends growing up. But then the next day, 2-3 days later, we make up and we're friends again. Bro, even like with your own siblings, you have your fights. Some of them are a little more personal than others, but at the end of the day, you make up. And that's basically where Tails and Vector are going to be. So we talked about Shadow and his mysterious abilities. I don't want to get into it too much because I don't want to spoil anything. But if you guys are reading in between the lines as to what happened in that episode, I think some of you might be on the track of where you know where I'm going with Shadow. And if you haven't figured it out with Shadow, Philia, you should start piecing it together when we get into Philia. So, which is what we're going to do here in a minute. So, the other big topic I want to talk about from this episode that we got was Bo Koon. During the episode, Eggman has a discussion after Infinite leaves. He kind of holds this emergency meeting with Boku and Deku. But Bo Koon, as we would come to find out, we saw it in one of the, I think it was the first episode of this season, of season 4. Bo Koon physically sided with Infinite in one of those moments. So Eggman never forgot about this. So he tells Bo Koon, look, I like your idea about going after Infinite. So this is what we're going to do, Bo Koon. I know you're buddy with Infinite. So you want to be a traitor and be friends with Infinite, I'm going to make you make a choice. You can use your friendship with Infinite to try to get the Phantom Ruby back, and I'm going to give you a week to do it, or you're off Team Eggman. That's basically, Bo Koon is a traitorous gremlin. Technically, he's a demon, more so than a gremlin, but he's a demon. At least that's the description I got, because I always wondered, what the hell is Bo Koon anyway? What kind of Mobian is he? It turns out he's a demon. Figure that one out. He's a Mobian demon. Tasmanian devil. Maybe he's a Mobian Tasmanian devil. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just grasping at straws here. But he tells Bo Koon to basically, I'm going to give you a week to get the Phantom Ruby, to use your friendship with Infinite to get the Phantom Ruby off of Infinite. I'm giving you a week to prove your loyalty. So that begs the question. In these final moments, in one of the scenes later on in the episode, Bo Koon shows up with Infinite. He kind of surprises Infinite. And Infinite's like, what are you doing here? And Bo Koon says, I'm here to work with you, boss. Basically, I chose to work for you. Infinite says, he kicked you out, didn't he? And that's where Bo Koon comes clean and tells Infinite, not really. I mean, he gave me an ultimatum and said I have to steal the Phantom Ruby for you, and I have a week to do it. Then I'm kicked out of the Eggman Empire if I don't. So Infinite kind of gets a chuckle out of this, like, so you were going to betray me. And Bo Koon swears to Infinite, I'm not going to betray you, boss, I swear. But, as I have written in my notes, can Infinite trust Bo Koon? Do you think Infinite should be trusting Bo Koon? Is this a mistake for Infinite to allow Bo-Kun in. And Infinite allows Bo-Kun to join him because Bo-Kun has essentially proven his worth to Infinite. He helped create the notes that they took on Equestria during the year it took them to travel to Equestria. Bo-Kun, Boku, and Deku all took very detailed notes about Equestria and about all the info that Infinite could get. So Infinite, Bo-Kun has almost kind of proven his loyalty to Infinite directly already. So that's why he kind of lets him in. But I want to know from you guys, do you think Bo-Kun should be trusted? Is Bo-Kun to be trusted from Infinite? What do you guys think? I'm interested to see what your thoughts are. So he gave him, Michael Collins wants to know why a week. Why a week? Think about it, Michael. You can't just steal something from somebody. You have to kind of earn their trust to kind of like lure them in to steal, to kind of steal it. Because again, Bo-Kun can't just steal that ruby from Infinite. He can't just fly up to him and take it. So Eggman's giving him a week to not only find Infinite, but to somehow get that ruby off, or to get the Phantom Ruby off of him. Michael says a week is not enough time. Tell that to Eggman. Eggman could care less. Bo-Kun is just a pawn to Eggman. So he doesn't care. In fact, I think realistically, Eggman would have gave him 48 hours or less, or 3 days, 72 hours. I was being generous. So Michael Collins says, I think Bo-Kun knew that a week was too little time. It's not so much that. Bo-Kun likes to play the game. We've seen him play the game with Shadow. We've seen him play the game with Sonic. We've seen him play the game with Eggman. Whatever benefits Bo-Kun in a specific moment is what Bo-Kun is going to do. Elijah says, why else would he tell Infinite about the ultimatum? Yes, he kind of tells Infinite about the ultimatum, so he proves like he can be trusted. Naturally, that's the way things happen. If you tell somebody about what your plans are, it's kind of like, okay, well, now you kind of know what my plans are, So that's another kind of reason why Infinite kind of lets him in. It's like, okay, I know to keep my eye on him. So Infinite already knowing, all right, I like him. I like Bo-Kun, but I'm going to keep my eye on him. Let's see. Did Eggman canonly replace Bo-Kun and Deku with Orbot and Cubot? I don't know what exactly happened. They disappeared. After Sonic X, Boku and Deku, I would say yes, he canonly did replace them. Because for the longest time in the comics, in the Sonic X comics, obviously Boku and Deku were part of Eggman's team. So I guess you could say they were officially replaced. So they got scrapped, basically. Yeah, Michael Collins is right. They are Sonic X only. I like Boku and Deku personally. I thought their characters were always funny. But they were also very useful to Eggman in some ways. They helped Eggman a lot in Sonic X, a lot. So I actually like Boku and Deku. So I think the consensus is that a couple of you think that hell no, Boku should not be trusted. Michael Collins thinks yes. We'll have to wait and see if Boku is to be trusted or not, which side he is on. Let's see. The other thing I want to discuss really quick about Infinite. I never really got into I was originally going to get into the backstory about why he wears the mask. I think I'm going to have him explain that a little earlier. Again, this episode already was 140 minutes. It was a 100-minute episode. So I cut the part where Infinite where you see how he comes and gets the possession of his helmet. There's two reasons why Infinite wears that helmet. First reason is because it's intimidating. And once Infinite gets the Phantom Ruby, he becomes obsessed with power and intimidation. So that's reason number one, he wears the mask. Reason number two, he wears it out of shame. After losing to Shadow and after what happened to his squad, Infinite is shamed, self-shamed. So he wears that mask for that reason as well. Those were the two canon reasons that were given as to why Infinite wears the mask. The main reason is to intimidate and power. It's for power and intimidation. The other reason is more he's humiliated by losing to Shadow, and he doesn't want to show his face because he feels that his original face is weak. So he feels like when he gets the Phantom Ruby, that when he wears the mask, that's the real him with the Phantom Ruby. That's the new him, which is why he wears that mask. I was going to add that to the backstory, but again, a 100-minute episode as it was, I cut it. I think I'll explain it. I think I explained it here. I don't necessarily think I have to add that to the series, but I think he does add that when he has a conversation with Chrysalis. I think that's when he divulges, or when I'm going to have him divulge why. Let's see. Going back to the notes. Okay. So then we get to the last segment that I want to talk about, the closing. Okay, the closing. As we would come to find out with Infinite and Bo-kun, Infinite tells Bo-kun, I'm going to Canterlot because, as I read in your notes, there are some things in Canterlot that I can find an ally in Canterlot. I can find us an ally to help win this battle. Infinite does not believe he is capable of beating Shadow and Sonic on his own. Mainly because of the fight he had with Silver on the Egg Destroyer in the last episode. When he's fighting Silver, Silver proves that he can hold his own against Infinite. So Infinite now has doubt in his mind that he has to get an ally. He needs a powerful ally. And that's where we see him with Chrysalis and why he decides to release Chrysalis from her statue. He uses the Phantom Ruby to release Chrysalis. As you guys know, canonly, only the elements of harmony can really release Chrysalis from that. We saw Discord get released because of discord between the CMC. We saw that Nightshade was released from his statue because Sonya and Will were having a fight at the end of season 2, and their two cutie marks were reacting to Nightshade's cutie mark, and that's what allowed Nightshade to be released because the triad of power was so close into proximity. That's what allowed Nightshade to be released from his statue. But in this case, Infinite uses the Phantom Ruby to release Chrysalis from her statue. Reason being is because Silver was able to put up a fight. Infinite really didn't have the chance to use the Phantom Ruby to its fullest ability in a battle. So now Infinite sees this as a weak spot, as to say, if I can't use my magic or the magic of the Phantom Ruby in a battle, if I don't have time to summon the powers to use it, I can't win a fight with Shadow or Sonic. So this is why he wants an ally with Chrysalis, so he can have somebody watching his back. I didn't say that directly in the episode, but that's, if you guys want to know why he would release Chrysalis, that's why. Because he still feels like he can't beat Sonic and Shadow, even with the Phantom Ruby, because of Silver. Silver put up a fight on the. So Infinite has all this self-doubt going through his head. You don't see it, but he really is self-doubting himself after that fight with Silver. Also, at the end of this episode, you see Felia show up in Equestria. Felia and Bonnet arrive in Equestria. They open the portal. Felia opens the portal with her powers. She was able to, as we would find out, she powered up the machine. Nelson had the coordinates to the Master Emerald, which is at Sweet Apple Acres. So he was able to get the coordinates to where the exact position of the Master Emerald was. She uses her powers to power the machine. He replaced the hard drive. I didn't actually say that, but hard drives can be replaced. He was able to get the coordinates put in. And Celestia, oh my God. So Felia is off to Equestria along with Bonnet. As Felia was opening this portal, this also reacted to the Master Emerald. So again, the coordinates that Nelson had was to the exact location of the Master Emerald. So Felia's powers then react to the Master Emerald, which is drained of powers. However, Felia was able to open the portal somehow, was able to still get the exact location by using her powers, and by having the exact location of that Master Emerald, she was able to still tap into the Master Emerald's power and its location and use that to open the portal. She goes in, and as this is happening, Sonya, Hunter feels the power because it's the Master Emerald. And we know Hunter is forever linked to the Master Emerald. Now, what we're going to come to find out was, wait a minute, how can Hunter sense something going on with the Master Emerald if the Master Emerald has no powers? Ha 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 ha. You'll find out in episode 100 what happens to the Master Emerald. The Master Emerald and the Chaos Emeralds have their powers back because of Felia. So, she basically powers up the Master Emerald with her own powers. That's how powerful Felia is. She basically jump starts the Master Emerald back into power, and it opens the portal. That's why Hunter's able to sense the Master Emerald powering up. Then you have Sonic and Shadow sensing Felia coming through with her powers. Twilight can sense it. Celestia, anybody with alicorn magic can sense it, basically, at this point. So Shadow immediately bursts into tears because he knows it's his sister. And he, let's go. We need to get to Sonic's like, wow, Felia, I haven't seen her immediately and like interested. Eggman. Oh my God, I'm gonna get my names crossed. So Sonic and Shadow go off to Sweet Apple Acres. Now, keep in mind, Sonya and Hunter are already on their dates. Sonya and Hunter both sense what's going on. They show up to Sweet Apple Acres first. And to Sonya's shock, Sonya is shocked that Felia looks exactly like Sonic, except female version. To the point where Sonya asks, she's the one who opened the portal? And why does she look so much like my brother? Like I said, if you guys haven't figured out like where this is going yet, I would like to think you guys are starting to piece it together at this point. Let's see. Brandon Henderson asks, what will happen if Eggman absorbs the power of the Chaos Emeralds? Basically what you saw in the movie, what you saw in the Sonic movie. I don't know if there would be a super form per se, but we saw what happened to Jim Carrey in Sonic 2. So I think it would be something similar along those lines. He would be able to manipulate the chaos energy and manipulate his thoughts and turn that into power. That's how Hunter was created. So Eggman has used all 7 Chaos Emeralds before. That's how he was able to create Hunter. Hunter is Elijah's OC. So that was the backstory for him, was that he was created by Eggman using the Chaos Emeralds. No, I did not forget to review the theme between Prince Will and Starlight. No, I've only stuck to the important stuff because it's very hard to remember every scene. That, again, that was a 100-minute episode. So for me to remember everything in sequential order, probably not going to happen. So I just wanted to touch and review on the stuff that was pertinent to the title of the episode, which is Demons of the Past. That's why I didn't review Prince William and Starlight. But that's self-explanatory. Obviously, Will is upset with Starlight because she still wants to go to the gala. Will does not, because it's not safe, especially after when he found out what happened in Chicago. So basically, Will does not want him to go. Let's see. We're going to get into closing here. I'm going to turn my music back on briefly to close it out. Hold on, guys. I'll be back. So if you guys have any questions that you guys want to direct to me, go ahead and direct them now. I'm going to take about 15 to 20 minutes to do comments and questions. So I'm just going to get my background music on.
Power on. Bluetooth connected.
So, guys, again, I want to thank you guys for joining me live tonight on this Labor Day weekend. Very interesting episode 99 was. I promise you guys, season 4 is going to hit hard. Season 4 in general is a banger. Lion God has seen the list for my next several episodes. Elijah has seen the list for my next several episodes. They could tell you this show is going to be unhinged here at the first half of season 4. So it's going to get crazy. Going to get back into your guys' chats. Again, I don't want to take too much time because I have a barbecue going on with my friends and neighbors outside. So I kind of want to get to that. I'm going to see what you guys have going on here. Hey, what up, Will? Will says oh God, don't worry, Will, you're not going to become Hitler. Michael Collins says, at Brandon Henderson, while I believed Will is becoming like a dictator, I do not think he is becoming Hitler. No. Will says, I hope I'm not. I hope I don't become Hitler. Keep in mind, Will Atkinson, Prince William is Will Atkinson's direct OC. That's legitimately him. Prince William is Will Atkinson's, like, persona. Or, you know, pony persona. So, yeah. No, Will, you're not becoming Hitler. I would never. Brandon says, hey, Fluttershy, when Angel was in your body in season 9, he said that you want to marry Discord. Is that true? Well, in canon MLP, yes. Discord is my bone. Lion God asks, did anyone see the Sonic 3 trailer? Hell yeah, I did. Multiple times. I am pumped. If y'all are pumped for Sonic 3, F in the chat. I'm fired up. I'm hyped. Hype as hell for Sonic 3. It looks fantastic. Brandon Henderson said, when I said that Discord being rejected by Celestia being a bad reason, he took over a question I meant in canon MLP. Was he actually in love? Were they actually in love with each other in canon MLP? I don't think they were, unless it was in a comic that I didn't read. I watched all 9 seasons of MLP, and I don't remember that's why he took over a question. I just thought it was because Discord is the being of chaos. I kind of made up the love. Well, I can't say I made up the love story between Discord and Celestia. That was someone else. Somebody else came up with that storyline, and I loved it. Michael Collins says Twilight is dead. Yeah, I think Twilight is dead. But I thought there were rumors that they were going to bring Twilight back because the show was struggling so bad. I don't know. They need to figure out how to get G5 off my television and get G4 back on it. It's the only way I'm coming back to the Brony fandom. I need my friendship is magic. Sorry. Only way you're getting me back to the Brony-dom. I'll go to the conventions and stuff just because there's voice actors and voice actresses that I'm still interested in seeing from the G4. And of course, the community itself is a fun community. But nah. Bring back G4. Preferably bring back G4 as a crossover with Sonic. Then I'd really be down. Solaria says, bro is still streaming while I'm editing. That's crazy, bro. It is. Will Atkinson says he is doing a live stream tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time regarding his series, The Spirit Knights. I don't know what my plans are for tomorrow. I'm either watching Monday Night Raw or I'm going out. I haven't figured it out yet. Solaria says, legit in my little editing corner, editing right now. I know all about editing. It sucks. I said I was not editing shit today. Oh, this fucking song. Anyway. Brandon Henderson said, to make your YouTube channel more popular, I highly suggest you do some Sonic the Hedgehog video game walkthroughs and MLP audio drama live reactions. I mean, I could. That requires more work. I've honestly thought about doing wrestling content on this channel. That's another thing I'm passionate about. I'm also an old geezer, so technology and I don't mix. That's right, Solar. I am embracing my inner geezer. I don't know how to stream a video game. I honestly don't. I know you need Twitch. I don't have the cameras for it. It would take me probably a year to figure out how to stream video games. I've never done it. I thought about it. I'd like to do it. The thing is if I'm going to stream a video game, I want to do VR chat. If I'm going to get more eyes on my channel, I kind of want to showcase other voices that I can do. I would love to have VR chat. But again, I don't know how to stream video games. That's my issue. Will the Storm King be in Harmony and Chaos? No, Storm King is dead. He was the last battle the ponies had before Harmony and Chaos started. If you go back, watch the reboot, episode 1, I announced it in the prologue of the reboot episode 1 when the series starts. I made sure I added that portion. Because in Harmony and Chaos, you've already seen Tempest and Grubber. So yes. Storm King is dead already. Will Atkinson, oh good, but true story, I am actually part German. Solaria said, I didn't watch all 9 seasons of MLP, but I watched all of Bride and Daughter of Discord. I gotta still get Michael to finish the rest of it, shaking my head. We'd have to do that in a VC. And I'm not doing any Discord for the remainder of the weekend. Brandon Henderson said, all good villains need good backstories. Absolutely correct. And usually those backstories are very dark. I agree. Let's see where else. Wow, you guys are really chatting here. Let's see. Nah, the geezer wants to stream VR chat. Exactly. Brandon Henderson says, I wonder if the unicorns, Pegasi, and Urcorns were all united before Equestria was founded when the land was once known as the Equestrian Empire. On Mobius. That was the Equestrian Empire on Mobius. Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't be. Soletta was just corrupt. The MLP G4 movie was amazing, Brandon. I suggest watching it. If you want the Storm King, yeah, that's where he is. It's not a bad movie. Michael Consa, I always did wonder what happened to the Equestrian Empire. Did it become like Rome? Yeah, because the ponies, if you remember in canon, Harmony and Chaos, the ponies got banished by the Echidnas. Soletta actually went through with her plan trying to take over. Actually, it was Prince Tully who warned the Echidnas of what was going to happen. And they banished Soletta and the ponies to Equestria with the Chaos Emeralds. Solaria says, well, hell yeah, watch party with the geezer when I'm not working my butt off. You're correct on that. I'm not doing a live review on... Maybe I will. It depends. I don't know. It's hard enough doing reviews for this to find time. I'm missing a barbecue. Actually, Solaria, I have some new rules about the chat. I'm not going to comment on the chat unless it's directly correlating to what we're talking about on HC, or unless somebody has a direct question, and in which case I want any direct questions to me to be more toward the end of the stream. I'm trying to stay on task when it comes to the stream. Will said the next episode of the Spirit Knights is the Spirit Knights episode 10, the Spirit Knights in the Gumby movie. Okay. That's a question you gotta ask Solaria, Michael. Michael Collins wants to know why, Solaria, you bully me. That's a question that you can ask her. I still don't know to this day. And then she gets to bully me with Philia, and I'm Shadow. Do any of you know who Cosmo's... Good. Alright. She bullies me for her own enjoyment. Brandon says, Philia, watch your language, dang nabbit. I warned you guys about Philia. Brandon did watch episode 99. Brandon did. Yes, Philia is a sailor. I warned you guys about Philia. I said, y'all are not ready for Philia. Just wait to episode 100. You thought she was bad in this episode. Just wait till you see what she does in episode 100. Anyway, guys, I'm getting the heck out of here. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream tonight. Again, I want to wish you guys a happy Labor Day. I will say this, episode 100 is pretty much completely done. I'm waiting on the voice files from one other voice actor. It should be out here in the next couple of weeks, episode 100. The big 100th episode. And I kind of want to have a big live stream for it. So yes, to answer your guys' question, if you have it, a couple of weeks. I'll say within the next 3 to 4 weeks, episode 100 should be dropping. Other than that, guys, that's all I have for you today. Michael Evans saying so long from the kingdom. Have a happy and safe rest of your Labor Day weekend. And until the next time, guys, see ya.